Welcome back to another video. My name is Chris North and you're watching Smelly Cane Fragrance Reviews. Today I want to do something slightly different. I had a subscriber a couple of weeks back, actually probably closer to 2 months back, asked me to do a brief overview on what certain fragrances smelled like. So that's what we are going to do. Initially I was going to do 25, but I decided instead of just saying this smells like this and this smells like this, I wanted to give you a little bit of a backstory on what that actually is, where it comes from, what it's used for, stuff like that. So if we did 25 of those, this video would run into half an hour long at least. So I'm gonna do 5 this week, and then I'll do 5 more each week, potentially, or every other week coming up. Let's get started. All right, so we're gonna start with the note of ambergris and or ambergris, depending on what you call it. You can call it one or the other. What is ambergris? Ambergris is technically a clump of squid beaks, which the whales eat. They kind of get caught up in the stomach lining, and then it has this sort of secretion that attaches itself to it, and it exits the whale in the form of poop. Yeah. It's not technically doo-doo, but it leaves like doo-doo. Now the substance will float for years, sometimes decades, before it's actually found on the ocean. Ambergris hunters, which is an actual thing, actually end up finding them. They usually follow storm patterns and weather patterns, and they'll wash up on the shore. Recently, I think someone found one that was $300,000 worth of ambergris. Just a giant pile of, yeah, on a beach. What a find. Now, over the years, as it's floating, it changes from like a soft, poopy feel to a more firm, like hard, gray rock substance. And that's what you end up finding on the shore. It looks like a big rock. Now, why this is so important, this particular note is used to make the other notes last longer, and in some cases, bring the note out a little bit stronger. Now, ambergris does have its own smell. It can smell of multiple different things, from poop to mushrooms to like a sweet grass smell, and they all smell different. This stuff sells for, on average, about $7,000 a pound. It's a lot of money. It can also smell aquatic as well. Obviously, it's been floating around in the ocean for years and years before it's found. It can also smell sort of aquatic, sweet and earthy. Ambergris hunters also use dogs because dogs are really attracted to the smell of ambergris, so they are super helpful in trying to track these down. I'm going to give you one fact with each of these notes. So the fun fact for ambergris is that it is extremely rare, hence the price being $7,000 a pound, because only 1% of sperm whales actually make this in their lifetime. So only 1%, and most of it is probably still out there floating around the ocean. It hasn't come on shore yet. So it's an extremely rare substance. And there's synthetic compounds now that most fragrances who use ambergris have made up to sort of have that same effect, but it's not quite the same, so it's still sought after. The 2 fragrances that I have, I've got a lot of fragrances that have it, but the 2 that I'm going to show you are Bvlgari Man Wood Essence. Actually has ambergris in it. One that I mentioned a few videos ago where I said that the initial opening smells like crayon to me. If you ever smell it and you don't smell that, I apologize, but that's what it smells like to me. However, the dry down on this is very, very amazing. It has like a woody, sweet aspect to it. And I think the ambergris is what's making those other notes pop and what's making it last so long. I get about 6 to 7 hours on my skin with this one. And the other cologne that I have that actually has ambergris in it is from Acqua de Parma, Colonia Club. And this one, besides the cap being almost impossible to get off, sweet, spicy. It's almost, the citrus that's in it is almost so citrusy to the point that it's extra spicy. So it's like lots of spice, lots of citrus. It's good stuff. And I think maybe the ambergris is, again, playing into why these notes are popping the way they are, and why they're lasting as long as they do. And next we're gonna move on to Neroli. Neroli is an essential oil that is made from the flowers and the buds of an orange tree, specifically a bitter orange tree. The smell is citrusy, sweet, slightly spicy, and can also smell like honey as well in some fragrances, depending on how they portray it. The actual bitter orange tree gives 3 total essential oils: bitter orange from the rind of the actual fruit, petitgrain from the branches and the leaves of the plant, and the white flowers are what give us neroli. Now, neroli has many health benefits, some of those being it is a mood enhancer. It helps with inflammation after pregnancy or just inflammation in general. And the smell's often used during meditations to calm down an individual as well. well or calm down yourself. Neroli is often used in like summer fragrances, but even some of the darker winter fragrances like Dolce & Gabbana is the one uses Neroli as well. That's not one of the fragrances that I pulled out, but that's, I'll just name that for you. So Neroli is also in Dolce & Gabbana. The fun fact for Neroli is that it can also be added into sodas, and it is thought to be one of the ingredients in Coke's secret recipe. Now the two fragrances that I'm going to show you that have Neroli in them, Tom Ford's Neroli Portifino Acqua, sort of smells like a orange sunscreenish smell. Yeah, it just smells like summertime orange, light orange smell, and like a sunscreen smell as well to it. And the other one I have is 4711's Remix Cologne. I don't know what year edition this is. I think it's 18. These smell oddly similar. This one is more sunscreeny with the orange. This is more leaning towards the orange and slightly less of that sunscreen smell. But they both have Neroli and both do a very good job of utilizing how it's supposed to smell. Next, we're going to move on to Oud /Agarwood. It may show as both in a note breakdown. I'm gonna have to read a few things because some of the words on here are ones that I don't remember or are just really hard to pronounce. So Aquilana melicensis is the tree that is found in the rainforest of Vietnam or Southeast Asia. The tree on its own is worth just the amount of wood that it has. Damage to the trees by animals, by humans, and by nature causes a fungal infection within the tree called Phylophora parasitica. The tree reacts to damage and it causes the tree to produce a resin, a very strong smelling resin, also known as aloes, A-L-O-E-S. This resin is dark and wet. Over many years, the aloes continues to grow inside of the tree to create agarwood. During the harvesting process, the agarwood that has been created from the fungus and the actual aquilana wood have to be separated. This process takes hours as the agarwood has to be hand carved away from the rest of the tree. Agarwood is used as incense in the Middle East. How it ends up in fragrances here is the agarwood is put into an essential oil and then added into fragrances. Unfortunately, because of poaching though, the Aquilaria tree is considered extremely endangered. The price of agarwood is about $100,000 for between 2 to 3 pounds. Very, very expensive note. To a lot of people, it's considered liquid gold when you actually have the essential oil of it. The fun fact, and I'm gonna mispronounce some of these, but just bear with me. The fun fact is that agarwood, aloes, and or oud are mentioned in multiple religious transcripts. In the Bible, John 19:39.
John 19:39 reads, "And there came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Jesus by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight." Also
mentioned in the Nirvan's Sutru, it's called heavenly wood. In the Sahih al-Bukhari, Allah's messenger describes paradise as including the burning of agarwood for incense. The two fragrances that I have for you with oud in them are Versace Oud Noir, which in my opinion, if you sort of want to just get into the oud fragrance world, is probably the first one to start with. It's probably the easiest to wear oud fragrance. It smells so good. It's like dark, resinous. In some fragrances, oud can come across a little fecal depending on how it's used, or animalic, but I think in this one it just comes off as like a dark, resinous, dirty wood smell, which is very, very pleasant. The other one that I have is Calvin Klein Pure Gold Euphoria. I have regular Euphoria, which was one of my favorite fragrances growing up. I have Euphoria Intense, and then this one is the one that has oud in it. And even this one would be a good beginner one as well. If you can find it. Sometimes these are a little harder to find. I got this one as a tester, which is why I don't have the cap, and this one is a tester as well. But Versace Oud Noir, Calvin Klein Pure Gold Euphoria Men. Both very, very wearable oud fragrances. Tonka Bean. The smell of Tonka Bean is a mix between sort of a vanilla, light tobacco, almond, creamy smell. It looks like a large raisin on the outside, but on the inside is an almond. So it also has sort of a bitter taste as well when you eat the actual Tonka bean itself. The Tonka bean grows on a plant that is called Dipteryx odorata in Brazil and Venezuela. It is the seed from the flower of the plant. The chemical compound coumarin is what is extracted from the actual Tonka bean itself, and that's what's usually in most fragrances, but it's either listed as coumarin and or Tonka bean. Fun fact is, the selling of Tonka beans to eat has been illegal in the United States since 1954. Two Tonka Bean fragrances that I have are Banana Republic's Tobacco and Tonka Bean. This one is nice, a little darker than the next one that I'm going to show you. Tonka Bean adds a nice punch, I think there's vanilla in here as well, but it's adding oomph to the vanilla, a little bit of creaminess as well behind the tobacco. There's not much tobacco in that fragrance, even though it's in the name, but the Tonka Bean definitely shines. The other one is by Authenticity Perfumes called Urban King. This is more of a fresh, clean take on Tonka. It still has that Tonka Bean creamy vanilla almondy smell, but this is more of a summer, fresh, clean smell to go along with it. You can pull this off sort of in the winter as well. This can be worn in the summer. I wouldn't really recommend wearing this in the heat of summer, maybe on a date night, but last, but certainly not least, is my favorite note in a fragrance. Can you guess what it is? Wrong. It's vetiver. Vetiver is a deeply rooted tropical grass. The grass grows up really tall and the roots are actually longer than how tall the grass grows up, because these are usually planted near other plants to help them grow really well, because it helps to hold the water and the nutrients into the soil. Also, they are near bodies of water or like rivers or running water, so they have to have those strong roots to hold them in place. The deep roots from the vetiver also help to hold the soil's integrity together as well. It smells a mixture of earthy, smoky, fruity, and like a wet grass smell. That's usually how I pick up vetiver, is sort of like you just cut the grass, it rained, and now the rain's gone and the sun's out. So it's like that warm, wet grass smell. But in certain fragrances, it can come across a little more earthy, a little more dirty as well, a little more smoky. But in most fragrances that I've smelled, it's that wet grass smell. The essential oil comes from the root of the plant, and depending on where the vetiver comes from, it will actually smell different, meaning Haitian vetiver is a clean, wet grass smell. Javanese vetiver is smoky and dusty. So depending on where they come from, they can smell differently. The scent is generally known to be earthy and woody green. The essential oil is very, very sticky, which makes sense because the root of the plant is used as a fixative to kind of hold things in place. Now, the fun fact for this one, the roots of this grass actually reach down into the ground 3 to 4 meters, which is taller than any human on the planet. So the roots of this grass go into the ground for taller than a human. 3 to 4 meters is between 9 and 12 feet. So that's actually taller than maybe 2 humans on top of each other. So actually 2 of me on top of each other, that's about how tall it is. The 2 fragrances that I have for you for vetiver, Montale Red Vetiver, which is probably a top 5 best fragrance in my fragrance collection. This bad boy will last you 8 to about 10 hours. Vetiver, as this dries down, just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. It's an amazing scent. If you love vetiver, you should definitely get your hands on it. If you do, this next one you should also get, even if you don't love vetiver, just because it's that good of a fragrance, and it is Terre De Hermes. And I only have the 30 ml bottle. These two smell very, very similar. The vetiver in this is a lot punchier. The vetiver in this is a lot more refined, and it's not as smoky as it is in red vetiver, a little more clean. But both of them are amazing fragrances. Red vetiver is my favorite vetiver fragrance, but Terre De Hermes is one of a kind as well. That is 5 notes, sort of like a background story on them and what they smell like, and then a couple fragrances that I have that I would recommend with those notes in it. We'll try to do another one of these in either next week or the week after. Thank you for recommending it, Zach. I appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.